solve some of these. I'm going to take you through a 3-step process plus an optional 4th step for doing a check. So let's go through the first one together. Write it down on your lined piece of paper. Go. Alright, so first step, let's just find the common denominator and solve. Just add multiplying on top and bottom. So common denominator, what would it be for x squared, 3x, 3x squared? And you come up with, what is it? 3x squared, be the common denominator. Meaning, what can we multiply by one or more of these fractions by so that all the denominators match? So if we multiply here by 3 over 3, here by x over x, they will all be 3x squared. So same step as normal, right? That has not changed. Here we go. Write it down with me. 3 over 3x squared equals x over 3x squared. And the last one did not change. So common denominator. Next, we're actually going to multiply by the same common denominator. So this is in effect, I'm going to multiply everything by whatever my common denominator is. At this point, they will all be matching and still be in common. So I multiply all of them by the same common denominator. Right here, here, 3 times, or 4 times, or how many fractions there are. In effect, it cancels them all. So you do not have any more fractions. You're left with whatever's on the top. And that takes us to the last step of solve whatever equation you have. Now, the first 6 will be linear equations. That's when you get the variables to one side, numbers to the other. The second 6, number 7 through 12, will be quadratics. So that's when we'll get it equal to 0 and find what 2 number to multiply to this, add to this. So quadratics, almost squares. Right, so that's our third step. What does this equal? What plus 1 equals 3? 2. X equals 2. Now I mentioned another step. Since we're finally dealing with equations, there is an ability to check. So those that you really want to get that highest grade possible on the quiz and the test, you know this, you've been doing this all year long. Anytime you have a problem with an equal sign in it, also known as an equation, you always plug your answer back in to see if it works. So it is 1 over 2 squared, which is 4, equal 1/6 plus, let's see here, that'd be 1/12, right? So does 1/4 equal 1/6 plus 1/12? Right, that's the question. And if it does, let's see here, this will equal 2 over 2, so it would be 3/12, which equals 1/4. If it does, if you do get the same thing on both sides, you know your answer is 100% correct. If you didn't get the same answer, you know that something's up. Okay?
Oh, no.
Alright? So That's very doable for this type of problem, like number one. When you get over here, though, you might see, like on the back especially, maybe not so realistic. It might be more work than it's worth, but depending on how bad you need that, make sure that question's correct, make sure your grade's going up. Maybe you'll spend the time to do the check on all of these. I'll leave it as an optional step at this point. Alright, so that's the gist of all these problems. You know this already. We've been doing this kind of work for a while. So what I'm going to focus on really for the rest of the 3 examples I show you is where things will go wrong. If you miss it, what will you miss more than Mike? Just from doing this for thousands and thousands of times over and over and over. I know it's a repetition where the mistakes will be, if there are any at all. Number 1 will be negatives, number 2 will be parentheses, and sometimes both of them the same thing. So let's look at this real quick. So first step, remember, find the common denominator. That's already done, right? It's already the same. So we can go straight to the second step. That would be multiply by that common denominator. So yeah, all 3 were the same at the beginning. So we can go straight to, let's cancel them out. Maybe we'll do this because this is really a distributive property 3 times, and each time we'll cancel out the A and the Y. We're just left with x4. Does that look right? Check it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, so should we think of this as having parentheses? Have we always done this anyway?
No.
Yeah. Why do we always consider this? We're subtracting a, and we're subtracting a minus 4. So what does that mean? Subtracting a negative 4 is addition. So this is what I was talking about earlier. If you make a mistake, it's probably related to negative parentheses or both. And this was the same thing as everything we've been doing for a couple of weeks. This hasn't changed. So we're going to be very careful about this. If you make a mistake, after we start working today, and you know the answer's wrong, don't erase everything, start all over. Start by looking at negatives. And then parentheses. Maybe that's probably where it is. Don't call me over and say, I couldn't get it and I erased it all. Once you talk me through every step. You probably had it 95% correct. Just let me look at it and I can see if that's the first thing I'll check. If it's a subtraction, if you forget distributive. Alright, so from here, you guys can solve it. 1 minus what number plus 4 equals 3? So, yeah, go and solve that. Add 1 and add 4, same adding 5. So 5 minus what equals 3? 2. 3 goes in. Notice how I bounce back and forth between the algorithm approach. Oh, do this on both sides. Do this on both sides. Then you have to do this on both sides. And then like here I just say, well, 5 minus what is 3? 2. I don't subtract 5 on both sides, divide both sides by, it's making something simple too difficult. And of course you have the option. It's 3 over 2 equal 1/2 minus a negative 2 over 2. So just 3 over 2 equal 1/2 plus 2 over 2. Sure enough, yeah, 3 over 2 equals 3 over 2. And we know 100% we have the answer. So the purpose of this problem is pointing out really right here, making sure you don't forget about distributing negatives. Without that distribution, none of this would work out correct. And a lot of you just said, yep, that looks good, minus 4. It looks so correct, it looks so easy that it can't be wrong, no way. And sure enough. Okay, good. So let's, oh yeah, don't forget over here, this is only going to be our answer sheet, so on here we should just have x equals, what's answer number 1?
2.
2, alright, and number 3 was answer? A equals 2. So all on here, I just want to see the answers, that's all. And then you can staple their work to it. So let's jump down to the quadratics, 7 and 11, and then you guys go for it. So 7 and 11, same thing, it's just you can see there's squares in there, so solving a quadratic a little bit more involved. But it's more review than anything else. We've done it many times before. Number 7. I'm going to copy that down. Think about what the common denominator is as you're copying it down. CD, common denominator. Let's see. What we got? Yeah, we have x squared, a 4x, and a 4x, so yeah, we need an x squared. So multiply this one by x and x. 4 and 4. What am I missing right now? Before I do anything else, what else should I put up there? So is this the next step? X squared minus 5, is that correct? No, why not? So yeah, multiply by x, right? X squared minus 5. X squared minus 5. What is wrong with this? You need parentheses. So it's, once again, if it's going to be a mistake, parentheses or negatives. Right? So it's not really in the, it's in the fine print. It's not in the, we always need parentheses. We have adding, subtracting. Remember, we're multiplying by x on the entire top. Not just the first term in the top, but everything. Same thing here, I'm multiplying by 4 on everything. So we do need those. X squared minus 5x plus 4x plus 8 equals. Remember, all these are over the same denominator, 4x squared. And of course, we're just going to clear them out now. So if I multiply each of these by 4x squared, they just end up canceling each of these out. That's why we chose that one. Whatever that denominator is, and then we can set it. The second step is always to multiply by that common denominator. And now from this point on, no more fractions. let's see here. So I'm solving this. 5x, oh no, not 5x. X squared minus 5x plus 4x plus 8 equals 5x. Now it's different for quadratics, meaning you see an x squared there. So when it's x squared, you always get it equal to 0. Always want to get it equal to 0. Here's what we're going to do. So I see, let's see, I've got negative 5x, positive 4x. I'm going to combine those together. And then second, I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides, and that will make it equal to 0. That's my point. So we have x squared, negative 5x plus 4x, plus 8 plus 5x. Anything that's the same on the same side. If I have two numbers or two variables or two squares, I'm going to simplify that first. And then get it equal to 0 minus the 5x equals 6. X squared minus x plus 8. Again, I mentioned the first 6, it's something straightforward. Right? Something linear. Something like 3m minus 9 equals 0. Oh, you get the numbers and variables on different sides. 3m equals 9. Divide by 3, right? And you get your answer. That's for linear. Right? No squared. But when you have squareds, that's when you have to do, okay, what two numbers multiply to 8? Oh, 6. Very good. And add to negative 6. So different process. So if you see a squared in there, right, you have to know, well, okay, that's the factoring side. And all these are going to be factorable. I didn't give you that not factorable. So if you're not able to factor it at the end, that means something's wrong above. Alright, so we get what? Minus 4 minus 2, x minus 4, x minus 2. So the second 6 will have 2 answers. And that means, well, x minus 4 equals 0, so x equals 4. X minus 2 equals 0, so x equals 2. So we get 2 answers. Now that means the check for this will be a lot more difficult, right? Because you have 2 answers. And if your original question is kind of vague, it might take a little bit longer. But it's one of those things that if you have a low grade, I notice you're not doing any checks, don't ask me how can I raise my grade later. The trick is very simple. You get more questions correct. That's how you raise your grade, right? How can you make sure you get more answers correct? You do a check. But some people say, well, that's a lot of work. And fractions, boy, that 5th grade work I don't like doing. And then you ask, but what else can I do? You don't have a choice. You have to do the work. You want to get the right answer, know for sure. That's what you got to do. Alright, so that's that. Going back to the answer sheet, we'll have what, 4 and 2. And since we have 2 answers, use the set notation. Okay. The only answers on the original worksheet, all of this. Addressed. Okay. Let's see here. Is there any others? Do you want me to do one more, or do we think we're good? You don't need to. You want to go through that? Yeah. Go through that. Last one. As we'll take over. Give you a second. Write that down. I don't mind that they're out of order. Just make sure they're all easily, visibly numbered, and I could find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fairly easily. When in doubt, use more paper. Don't squeeze it all together on the front side just so you can say I used one piece of paper, but nobody can read it. That's fairly useless. And then as you're writing it down, be thinking about what the common denominator is. I find that while you're writing it, you can be thinking about it, and then after you finish writing the question down, you already know what the next step is. So what do you think the CD is here? Just 4x, right? So, not 4. Yeah. 2, right? Multiply by 4 on this one. Okay, what else I need to put in? Parentheses. What else should I be very careful for? Yeah. Again, red flag. Oops. Right here. So it's going to be a minus 2x and a minus 12. Believe it or not, that's the most common mistake. With all this stuff, it's just one little negative, so be careful. There we go. The first fraction didn't have to do anything, so it's the same thing. Second, let's try to do these. We got 2x and 12, right? But both with a minus. So it's minus 2x and minus 12. And all of that equals 12x plus 1. Is 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Little details. And once again, it's the same steps as before. Anything on the same side, simplify all of this first. That's going to be our next step. So I can see, well, I got 9x and negative 2x. Combine those together. And I see 20 and negative 12. Combine those together. That's step 1. The next thing is get this right side equal to 0. So kind of have an idea of what you're supposed to do before you do it. Just like no plan. So we got x squared. Doesn't change. 9x minus 2x. 7x. 20 minus 12. And now, let's get the e to the 0. So subtract 12x. Subtract 12x. Remember, x is from x's. If this was an x squared, I'd be subtracting it from the x squared. So keep them the same. Minus 4. Minus 4. So now on the right-hand side, 12 minus 12. 4 minus 4. I've got that equal to 0. X squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. And finish it up. What multiplies to 4 and adds a negative 5? Negative 4. Good. And what minus 4 is 0? 4 minus 4 is 0. What minus 1 is 0? 1 minus 1 is 0. So same as the last one, we got our 2 answers. Alright, if you read the directions, go ahead and read the directions and let's look at them carefully. You should always verify. So if you follow directions. So the question comes up right here. Now this has been on our quizzes and stuff. We've done this before. This isn't a new term. Remember what this meant. It's help us to avoid making a certain mistake, which you can never do in mathematics. So you might recall that in math we're not allowed to divide by 0. Actually, instead of x, I can say n equals 0. Okay. No. You are not allowed to divide by 0 in math. So when we get an answer, we just have to make sure, if we use this answer, would we end up with a 0 on the bottom on any of these?
No.
2 squared, 3 times 2, no.
Where
That's,
do we have 0 as an answer?
yeah, 0 is an answer, just you can't divide by 0. Yeah, those zeros on the bottom. That's what you're looking for. So it says to check. Doesn't mean you're going to have a bunch of them. But go down each one of these. If we plug in 2, do we get a 0 on the bottom? No, that's okay. If we plug in 4 down here, do we get a 0 any of these? If we plug in 2 here, do we get a 0 any of these? No. So we don't have a lot. It's not going to happen often. Actually, I don't think it's going to happen at all on this side. When we get to the other side tomorrow, sometimes we'll get 2 answers, but when you plug one of them back in, like let's say on the bottom we had x minus 1. We plug in 1 right here. 1 minus 1 would be 0. This whole fraction would be divided by 0, and we throw out that answer that's no longer a correct answer. Okay, so that's what it means to check for extraneous solutions. Just make sure our answer doesn't really get us a 0. And it's definitely more likely to happen over here. Tomorrow is the same thing, except you guys know this. The first thing you'll do is factor, and then do common denominators. That's identical. And again, if I did this problem, and I said, oh, the answers are 3 and -1, when I plugged in -1 here, I'd see I get a 0 on the bottom, and I'd throw that out. That's an extraneous solution. So it happens more when you have the factoring on the bottom. All right, so you guys have this period to work, about 17, 18 minutes, and keep in mind that there's no answers on these worksheets.